Good morning, distinguished invitees in the Netherlands, and good afternoon in Bangladesh. I'm so pleased to welcome each of you on the first morning in the next 50 years of friendship between the peoples of the two packed delta, as someone qualified in Europe and Asia, that's Netherlands and Bangladesh. This day, 50 years back, the then Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, Mr. Abdul Samad Azad, received a telegram from the Foreign Minister of the Netherlands, Mr. Shemelza, conveying Her Majesty the Queen's decision to accord official recognition to our newly liberated country, Bangladesh. Generations of Bangladeshis since then value the early pronouncement from the Netherlands, no less to mention of the valued material support which came from the Netherlands for the war-ravaged land for our rebuilding. This is the way the official level journey started. But with our two people who share significant maritime heritage and history, there have been so many connects and interactions that we see in records. As we recollect the past and pay tribute to all those who contributed to the widening canvas, it'll be fitting to recognize the emerging opportunities and also the frontiers of possibilities that one Dutch told me. Much of our collaboration started around water sector, and I was just telling this to Mr. Hinkoven, and gradually in focus has been capacity building, especially in the labor-intensive manufacturing. Development cooperation has been the defining feature for quite some time, or for almost 4 decades. As Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina underlined to both Her Majesty Queen Maxima, as also Prime Minister Mark Rutte on several occasions over the past years, in their interactions and engagements, it's very clear that the interactions and engagements are increasingly driven by mutual trust and respect. And also, if I may qualify, by a vision of shared prosperity, which binds us. Our leaders' notable camaraderie quietly underlines the values that connect Bangladesh and Netherlands, as much as for Bangladesh, but also, I guess, beyond. For instance, on securing justice and accountability for the Rohingyas, or in building global convergence on sustainable development, on water, on climate change. Well, there are often issues, frankly, on which, or areas, frankly, on which we sometimes going maybe slightly difficult, but it's been very clear that Dhaka and Den Haag has been engaging with objectivity, sincerity, and appreciation of each other's limits and constraints. This is how, as it's seen, our two countries connect, notwithstanding the diversity in the level of endowments and capacities. As I recently elaborated to a group of students from Leiden University, because our two peoples champion resilience, adaptation, and innovation in battling the limits of nature, we get connected in very unique ways. As I often accost many Dutch who had been to Bangladesh, they confide that a very different kind of drive, which they often see ceaselessly in Bangladeshis, which is essential to convert challenges to opportunities, that actually attract them to Bangladesh. Perhaps some qualify as a can-do attitude. And to be very honest, when I often get down on a December morning from my residence in Wassenaar, and I see a Dutch battling very severe wind on his or her bike, I think that's best manifest. And I immediately sort of equate with people on a coast or riverbanks. In the 1.5 year time that I'm in the Netherlands, I tell my Dutch friends that, look, Bangladesh is beyond a shard to ship story, or just to be viewed in terms of labor-intensive manufacturing, or a $1.5 billion bilateral trade. Our journey started with development cooperation, but the fulcrum is shifting increasingly to economic cooperation. Private sector from both sides are increasingly at the center stage. Bangladeshi entrepreneurs and conglomerates are asking for tying up with the Dutch peers, drawing Dutch knowledge, technology, and innovation. We see newer models of collaboration emerging based on economic principles. The menu of engagements is also changing, from apparel design to FMCG to fintech, renewable energy, light engineering. As urbanization is picking up and organizational industrialization also in Bangladesh, we see that the Dutch business are looking at new collaborations to tap. Building on the conversation between Bangladesh Agriculture Minister and the President of the Wageningen University, Professor Louis Fresco, this summer, the embassy plans to convene an agro-business conclave for the Bangladeshi entrepreneurs. Over 70 Bangladeshi digital companies are already engaged with their Dutch peers. Brainport from Eindhoven is now exploring to engage in Bangladesh. Dutch Orange Concert similarly are looking to step into Bangladesh. Dutch angel investors, impact investors are also exploring. Next week, I understand a group of 15 leading Dutch poultry companies will be getting down to Dhaka to explore tie-ups. On the same vein, preparations are afoot for a Dutch trade mission to Bangladesh. Why I cite these are not sort of a bit of nitpicking, but essential to illustrate that these are spots in a wider canvas that we may need to look into. And on a larger note comes the Bangladesh Delta Plan, which provides a key entry point for furthering our collaboration, which should be going into transformation of Bangladesh economy. Interestingly, as Antoinette is here, little does many know that 30 plus Dutch NGOs and foundations are active across wider social and economic development in Bangladesh. And beyond the economic sphere, there's also exciting prospects which beckon in art and culture. 3 months back, I was invited to Tuschinski Theatre in Amsterdam for the global premiere of a Bangladeshi film at the IDFA, International Documentary Film Festival. And that encouraged me to present a repertoire of contemporary, internationally award-winning Bangladeshi films over to the Netherlands, as also food festival and, if I may say, mango festival. Why mango? Because last summer, when we brought in a bit of indigenous mangoes from Bangladesh to Netherlands, some of the Dutch friends called it as champagne of mangoes. So clearly these are not exhaustive. I'm bringing this essentially in the spirit of celebration that where we are converging today, virtually though. We actually wish to have in person. I think let's take the advantage of this virtual connect and let's hear the stories from and reflections from some of the very distinguished individuals who have actually contributed so much in reaching where we are today. So let me first turn to Ambassador Dr. Tawfiq Ali, who joins us from Boston, and he was the first resident ambassador in The Hague. Between 1995 and 1998, he established the diplomatic mission in The Hague and said, you all will be very pleased to hear that today we are having our permanent chancery in a wonderful place in The Hague close to OPCW. Thereon, Ambassador Ali had been witness to our ties growing. So 2 decades on, could we hear of your reflections, sir?
Thank you, Riaz, for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts and personal reflections on this important occasion of the 50th anniversary of the Foundation of Diplomatic Relations. Now, I hope you're aware that for me, it's 5 a.m. in the morning here in Boston. I see the excellent program that you have drawn up to celebrate the event. So I will not speak about any of those subjects that will be covered. Instead, I will share some perspectives on the Dutch people. After all, it is the people-to-people relationship on which lie the foundations of lasting ties. I'd heard of the wonderful achievements of the Dutch in water management, had many friends from that country. So when I was offered the opportunity to establish the embassy in the Netherlands, I welcomed the opportunity. It was in end November 1995 that I went to The Hague. The time was bad. It was winter. Getting established was not easy, but we were fortunate. I received full cooperation at every level. I remember that when I found a residence in Wassenaar, we seem to have moved from that residence now. I was surprised to discover it was earlier designated as an institute in Wassenaar and could not be used as a residence. I spoke to the mayor, who found a loophole in the rules and gave special permission for the building to be used as a residence of the ambassador. That was one of my first experiences of how the Dutch can really help the Bangladeshis, people to people. I found that as a result of immense goodwill that the Dutch have for Bangladeshis, I was able to make lifelong friends and very easily. And contrary to the general belief among diplomats in The Hague at that time, I found the Dutch very warm and hospitable. My wife and I were invited to friends' homes, and we got an opportunity to see the Dutch in their home environment. Some surprises were indeed very pleasant, uh, such as when friends would drop in unannounced. Once the then secretary to Her Majesty, Felix Rodius, walked in on his way home to give me a book written on the house we lived in. It was quite a historic house, as I realized then. Another good friend was the head of the Royal Marichaussee. Uh, I hope I'm pronouncing it with the best I can. General Fabius. He invited us to his ancestral home, which was far from The Hague, and there we saw his family genealogical tree, uh, which could be traced back several centuries. Many of his forefathers were distinguished soldiers. I became friends with Ad Melkert, then Minister of Social Welfare, and urged him to visit Bangladesh. The only time he could find was over Christmas in 1997. And that for that he had to take a few days off to tour the country. It was quite remarkable. His observations upon return were indeed very insightful. Uh, he would, we would occasionally meet years later when he was working for the UN. Promoting cultural exchanges um, and arranging exhibitions of Bangladesh in the Netherlands was quite easy. People were very forthcoming and quite eager to learn more about our country. The visit of a cultural troupe with notable singers and dancers to Amsterdam and participation in a folk festival in Utrecht were significant events during my stay. Visits to flood control areas and participating in their events was educational. We deeply admired uh, how the Dutch managed to control the environment. Some of the garbage disposal and recycling methods are currently in use in Bangladesh. Cooperation in the field of water management has been going on for many years, even before I arrived, and we'll hear more about it today. A memorable event during my stay was a visit of a group of children to my home dinner. An NGO contacted me to state that they had once arranged for the adoption of several children who were orphaned or born out of wedlock during or soon after our War of Independence in 1971. By 1996, the children had become adults, and the head of the NGO felt it would be useful for them to meet people from their country of origin. It was a touching experience for me and my wife. I left the Netherlands with many impressions about the country and the people. I'd never come across a group so organized in their personal habits and life. Their care of the environment as a most densely populated country in Europe is admirable. Their ability to utilize every available space and miniaturize where possible is really unique and remarkable. The only other country I've seen this in is in Japan. Their attention to detail and the technology involved in whatever they do make them outstanding consultants. In many ways, they have attributes which I greatly admire. Thank you, Riaz Hamidullah. I wish your event all success and you personally for a wonderful stay in the Netherlands like I had.
Thank you, sir. On a personal note, as he returned from the Netherlands, I joined him as a young officer and worked with him. So that's on a personal note. Ambassador Chef Eisermans, great to have you. You served as the Dutch ambassador to Bangladesh from 2000 to 2004. And during your time, you contributed significantly in the advancement of the water sector collaboration, deeper and comprehensively, as I also understood from my colleague in Australia, where you're currently based. You have worked quite extensively on Bangladesh soil, saw our people up close, and still follow Bangladesh quite actively. How do you assess the evolution in Bangladesh and our relations over the past 2 decades? Ambassador. Ambassador Eisermans, have we lost you? I think we might have lost him. If that's the case, then can we now move on to something pretty unique, and let's depart from the understandable sequence of events. As we speak right now, 70,000 tulips are actually fluttering in Bangladesh soil, much to the surprise of many. I often receive calls sitting in The Hague, from Tetulia up north in Bangladesh to somewhere called Ghazipur in the vicinity of Dhaka. And it's not come by a great design. It's come thanks to an ordinary Bangladeshi farmer who actually took up the challenge on his own 3 years back, and he made the Dutch tulips blossom on Bangladesh in open fields. I myself was surprised, frankly. And it's been happening for the 3rd year in a row. And I see Paula nodding because Paula last Friday battled it out right there. And frankly, in the middle of COVID, he and his compatriots left the Dutch tulip bulb suppliers to disbelief, because they didn't believe. They thought that these people are either too challenging or exciting and they might fail. In choosing this hour to best project the quiet transformation in our collaboration and cooperation, in our ties, we thought that let's bring up this tulip story as a metaphor, as also something of substance. And that should indeed, what I said a little while before, indeed speak of the frontiers of possibilities. And I think this story of tulips is also a fitting tribute of friendship and also growing engagements between our two peoples. So let's present a video vlog on Dutch tulips and in Dutch language. Can we see that?
Ik ben in Bangladesh. De inwoners van Bangladesh zijn net zoals Nederlanders gek op bloemen. Er zijn veel verschillende bloemen hier, maar nieuw is de tulp. Gisteren zijn hier 70.000 tulpenbollen aangekomen op het vliegveld in Dhaka. En wij gaan ze achterna. Ga je mee? Ik ben in het noordelijke plaatsje Tetulia en hier worden de bloembollen geplant. En ik ga een kijkje nemen waar ze deze tulpenbollen planten. Kemal laksın. Shada. Daarbij, waar haalde je de inspiratie vandaan om tulpen naar Bangladesh te halen?
আমি একজন ফুল ফার্মার বিভিন্ন সময় বিভিন্ন ফুলের উপর ট্রেনিং করে থাকি সেই ক্ষেত্রে আমরা নতুন নতুন ফুল নিয়ে আসি। টিউলিপটা হলো একটা নান্দনিকতা ফুল, এটা শুধু যে ফুলের জন্য না, পর্যটনের জন্য, তার জন্য এই অঞ্চলটাকে সিলেক্ট করা।
De tulpenbollen zijn geplant en over 30 dagen gaan we weer een kijkje nemen. Hier in Tetulia zijn ze erg tevreden met het eindresultaat. Wat onmogelijk leek, blijkt mogelijk te zijn op deze deltagrond.
8জন কিষাণের মাধ্যমে এটি চাষ করছি, ভালো চাষবাস হয়েছে।
De tulpenbollen uit Nederland, die nu op Bangladeshi grond zijn uitgekomen, zijn een symbool voor de vriendschap. Als je de volgende keer tulpen in je vaas doet, denk je dan ook even aan Bangladesh?
Ambassador Rias, you're muted.
We can't hear you actually.
I'm sorry. I just said that was in Dutch language, and as I said, perhaps a modest tribute to our friendship, which keeps on growing and must be growing. Next, Mr. Henkovink. Water deservingly occupies a center stage in our engagements. As the Dutch Special Envoy for International Water Corporation, you are engaged very closely with Bangladesh bilaterally and, may I say, multilaterally also. 2016, when you're part of your Sherpa of the Dutch Prime Minister with the UN Secretary General. So how would you assess, or how do you look at Bangladeshi people's adaptation, resilience vis-a-vis water in Bangladesh? I know I dare put this question to you. You see this much, and perhaps some anecdotes as well while you have worked in Khulna and so forth.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ambassador Rias Hamidullah. But also thanks for the reflections by Ambassador Tawfiq Ali, and of course there are many to come. When I was 4 years old, we started a partnership with Bangladesh. I don't remember it because I was too young, but I'm pretty sure if I could, it informed my work on water until this day. Every day I'm inspired by the work we can do together in Bangladesh, but also in the Netherlands. And I think it's exactly this, the partnership between the people of Bangladesh and the Netherlands is so strong. And that brings me to water, because water is about people in the Netherlands, but definitely in Bangladesh. When you fly to Bangladesh, you immediately see it. Water is everywhere. But when you touch the ground and you work with people in Bangladesh, you know water is as much culture in Bangladesh as it is in the Netherlands. And that is from the community level up, where I work on projects and programs to help build resiliency, adaptation, but also water security, all the way to the Prime Minister, who is a world leader on the issues of water, an inspiration for so many of us. And it was therefore also my honor to be Sherpa on the high-level panel on water, where both my Prime Minister as well as Sheikh Hasina, Prime Minister of Bangladesh, served and provided the leadership, not only in our own two countries, but for the global community. And as we head to next year's UN 2023 Water Conference, that partnership is an inspiration for the world. And I know, working on the ground with the program that is called Water as Leverage, where we use, and this is an image from Khulna on the river, where we use water as a springboard, as a capacity to bring people together. And I'll show an image by photographer Cynthia van Elk, who documented the whole Water as Leverage program, where you see the pleasure of living with water, but also the challenges that come with it. Khulna, a city in the Bangladesh Delta, not the biggest one of many, shows how water and the partnership between the Netherlands can help us all progress toward a more sustainable future. I can talk about the many opportunities that we come across, but for this celebration, I would like to stop. I want to thank you, Ambassador Riaz Hamidullah, for taking the opportunity to highlight the many stories. I want to thank you for the partnership, and I really look forward to expand that partnership. We worked on the Bangladesh Delta Plan, looking 100 years ahead, and now working on it every day. We work together in this innovative Water as Leverage program. We work together in the context of the UN. We work together because water brings us together and is of such a critical importance. And we work together because we share the same culture and that the people of the Netherlands and Bangladesh are really water friends. So thank you so much for being a true water friend, Ambassador. I really look forward to expand this further.
Thank you, dear Henk. Let me also say, as you showed the thing, that we show reciprocate by showing that while we were planning the study in December 2020, water, life, and culture. So thank you very much for underlining that the importance of culture. So it's water is not simply an abstract. Ambassador Chef Eisermans is back with us. Very good to have you, Ambassador. Are you there, Ambassador? Oh, perhaps we have lost him again. He'll get back to us. As I was saying, that the centrality of water in our engagements needs very little elaboration. So in fulfillment or bringing the real stories in a comprehensive manner, the Dutch Embassy in Bangladesh, our embassy in the Netherlands, and IHE Delft joined hands in launching a series of podcasts to mark the 50 years of Dutch-Bangladesh water friendship. So let's watch the teaser, which would mark the launching of the podcast series.
Welcome. You're listening to the prologue of the Raising Water podcast.
More than 100 people died and hundreds more are still missing after the worst flooding in parts of Western Europe for several decades.
This is a country of 160 million people today.
Een hevige orkaan, samenvallend met een springvloed, bracht op 1 februari een ramp over Nederland.
Now also face the struggle.
When we read, listen and watch news stories about water in the Netherlands and Bangladesh, they are mostly about the threats it brings in the form of floods. These floods have brought our two countries together. And since the independence of Bangladesh, the Netherlands and Bangladesh have been cooperating to tackle this and many other water challenges.
The first collaboration I can recognize is how to introduce winter rice.
What I always like best is really trying to get it done. And when we started to work in Khulna as part of the Water as Leverage program, visiting Khulna for the first time, walking its streets, really figuring out what to do, that's the experience that really, will always stick.
I'm very excited to have these two guests here with us. Today we have two well-known water experts who are greatly admired by people from education and research, government and private sectors, NGOs and international development communities in Bangladesh, Netherlands and beyond.
In this podcast series, we focus on the stories behind the relationship of the two allies and friends working together to deal with current and future water challenges.
So this is a good time when Bangladeshi professionals and Dutch professionals can sit down and define how to approach future, because future is totally uncertain due to climate change.
I would say to focus more on learning from the everyday realities and aspirations of those who are potentially or are actually most affected by the effects of climate change and water.
I'm not saying we always did right. We tried. We also come, like the rest of the world, from a modernistic age, an age where we thought every problem had one solution. We now know that is stupid. The one that we share is that the differences are the opportunity to connect. So working on water never stops. It sticks with us forever.
Thanks to all for taking part in the podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Shanur and the team, all your associates. Will I think throughout the whole year we'll see the podcasts rolling out. Soon after I joined the mission, almost 19 months back, that was the summer of 2020. My colleagues suggest me, sir, you must meet a lady, a Dutch lady called Antoinette. Her last name I always get challenged, and Antoinette Termusen. So I was wondering, here is a Dutch who biked on bicycle, biked all the way from Indonesia to a land she didn't know. That's called Bangladesh, mid 1990s. And eventually founded an NGO called Niketan. I was slightly confused because here is a Dutch called Antoinette, but the name is a Bangladeshi Niketan. So I was having difficulty configuring. And then I was really humbled, really touched by the human story, the way she sort of has been transforming the lives of so many hundreds of children in Bangladesh, particularly with disabilities. So Henk, as you said, it's not simply water, but it's also culture and people. So we bring up a human story. Antoinette, please tell us your journey to Bangladesh.
Well, thank you for the kind introduction and congratulations with the 50th anniversary of the diplomatic ties between the Netherlands and Bangladesh. It is indeed already 30 years ago that I Netherlands. I passed through Bangladesh, the country which changed my life completely. To be honest, Dhaka was, yeah, we have some troubling connection. Yeah, well, I've just gone to it.
No, please go ahead. We're hearing you.
Okay. To be honest, Dhaka was an enormous culture shock. It was so totally different from other capitals I had seen before. It was thousands of rickshaws, a few cars, and people walking bare feet everywhere. I was heading to Maniganj, and the funny thing was that people thought I had to be really, really poor since I was cycling. According to them, I will take a rickshaw when I had some money. So people brought me food even if they had almost nothing themselves. And in the small village Valsatia, I met a local organization working for children with a disability. I stayed there for a week and really fell in love with the country and its people. I made a promise to Said, a 6-year-old boy with cerebral palsy, and since then I have continued to support families and children with a disability. I lived in Valsatia from 1995 till 1998, and it wasn't easy. Life was simple, but the people were friendly everywhere. By using dictionaries, we could talk with each other. No mobile phones in those days, and it was extremely difficult to get in touch with my family in the Netherlands. I had to risk my life traveling to Dhaka for a phone call. But I received such a huge amount of love from the children with a disability and their families. They were the reason for me to stay and to continue my work. Bangladeshis are absolutely the most welcoming people on earth, but I also have to acknowledge that I will never understand them completely. They always surprise me. I witnessed weddings and hartals. I saw people dying on the road. I set broken bones to prevent that they were held in open fire. I took care of terrible burns cured by cow dung, and I argued a lot with local doctors. I cycled from village to village, convincing families to take better care of the disabled child. Stubborn, I stayed in villages till they finally agreed, and it was appreciated. I have known Said and many other children and their families for 30 years now. Our program is now designed to address all individual challenges of the child. We have an early intervention program, we provide special education and run specialized programs for children with complex disabilities or autism. We run veranda schools in remote villages and provide home-based therapy and care when needed. I'm proud of our Right to Decide program, in which we empower youngsters with a complex disability through our curricula on social skills, sexual and reproductive health, and money management. We give vocational training and run sheltered working places, and we have a residential place for youngsters with complex needs. A lot of things changed in the past 30 years. Special schools are established all over Bangladesh, and people are more knowledgeable about disabilities. But one thing is unfortunately still the same. People and children show less empathy towards children with disabilities. They are even rude and disrespectful. They are called pagel, and people throw stones at them, and even worse, they are often victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse. With our new program, Stories for Inclusion, we hope to contribute to more acceptance and inclusion for children with a disability in schools. The project has been financed by donors from the Netherlands for the past 30 years. And it is our dream that the Bangladeshi government and corporate businesses will enhance their support to the children, so that we can use our experience and focus on reaching out towards more children with disabilities. Bangladesh counts more than 16 million people with a disability. We can only give them a better future when we do it together, the society, the government, and NGOs. In 3 decades, Bangladesh changed a lot, and I'm happy to see that less children are undernourished, more families earn a decent income, and the medical care improved. Bangladesh's economy is a rising star, but we should not forget the poorest of the poor, the families with a family member with a disability. They do not yet benefit from the growing economy. Let's build an inclusive Bangladesh together. Thank you.
Warm applause to you, Antoinette, for your love and care for the children. Let me go back to one institution I just missed because that's IHE Delft. IHE Delft stands out not just as an institution of eminence in the Netherlands, in the world, but also in Bangladesh. So many, in the first instance, recognize IHE Delft for diverse reasons. Even those who have not been to IHE or who have not been in the water area, particularly, I guess, for the innovation and experimentation that often gets underway beyond hydrology, if I understand. I'm not a person of science. Professor Moores, uh, Professor Moores, how do you look at tackling the future water challenges in Bangladesh? I mean, sorry, I hope I'm not putting you in difficulty.
No, maybe first of all, I also fully support what Antoinette was talking about disabled people and helping them. I think it's not only true in Bangladesh. I think in the Netherlands it's also something that is worthwhile that we should try to improve. So again, I think learning from one another is an issue that I would also like to bring on the table as IHE Delft. I think, of course, we are a bit biased to water, so apologies for that. But I think that without Bangladesh, IHE Delft would also not be there. And unfortunately, fortunately, that was actually the existence of the institute started with floods, both in Bangladesh and the Netherlands. And we've already seen in the trailer of the podcast a bit that those things were important in both countries. I think as a reality from that, the institute started. And I think that a lot of good work was done together with people in Bangladesh. Sometimes I wonder, okay, have we not achieved anything? But I do think we did. But I also think, and that was also clear from the podcast, is that there are new challenges facing, and that I think together we should continue working on those new challenges. Climate change being one of them, but of course, population growth and other economic growth and others are other challenges that I think should be looked at in a combined way. And I think trust, which was mentioned before, between people is very important there. And I fully agree with all the other speakers as well, that I think that's where the relationship with Bangladesh is a very nice and good one. And I can also talk about my personal experiences in there. And I've never been more pleased than discussing with a farmer about very nice lemons that he's growing. A pity that we don't have them yet here in the Netherlands. I do hope that Bangladesh at one point will start exporting those as well to the Netherlands. But also, I remember a very nice weekend here with a delegation from Bangladesh and with people talking in such an, I think, enthusiastic and deep feeling about their rivers. And I think that's what brings Bangladesh and the Netherlands together, is this very, very deep feeling about rivers. It's not about the physical side, it's more about the emotional side and the connection in there. And I do hope that we can bring this connection and this strength together, stronger on the table together to fight also for the issues that are still there. And I think that they will become even bigger than they are at the moment. So I think we will need one another there. So I do hope that this podcast, where we look at what has been achieved in the past, but also looking forward, what challenges we are facing, will help us to strengthen this collaboration. And I think the signs are all on green there. So I hope that we make use of those signs and go forward. Without forgetting also what Antoinette was saying about the part of the population that is there. And there, again, I would like to stress that it's something important at both sides, Netherlands as well as in Bangladesh. So thank you very much for this occasion. And I'm really looking forward to also the other podcast events that will start.
Thank you, Professor Moores. I first stepped into Professor Moore's room in 2018, I recall now. In 2015, when I was serving in the headquarters in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Dhaka, one day my foreign secretary calls me up and says that, Riaz, you'll have to organize a cultural event for the visiting Dutch Foreign Secretary. The Secretary General. And I was really scratching my head what to do, because here is a very distinguished lady Foreign Secretary. And then I took the liberty of mobilizing a choir of young girls, Bangladeshi girls, all the way from down south in Khulna. And as the girls came down, and after quite an exhaustive meeting throughout the day, both the foreign secretaries entered the room. The girls started performing. And Madam Renee Jones, at a point of time, left her chair, straight away took, much to our surprise, to the stage, and she joined the girls. And it was something really, took everyone by surprise. While she is very highly regarded in the Netherlands as one of the most distinguished diplomats from the Netherlands, not just as Secretary General, and having held the office as Secretary General from 2012 to 2016, but Bangladesh is quite in your heart. In your early career, I guess in mid-80s or early 80s, you were in Dhaka as a young diplomat. So, Madam, having served in Dhaka almost now 4 decades back in your early career, how would you look back to your times in Bangladesh and our ties, Madam?
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Dear Ambassador, dear Riaz, dear colleagues, let me first of all say how nice it is to see so many old friends and colleagues on the screen. And let me congratulate you on organizing this event. I think you're brilliant, Riaz, at using the modern means of communication, COVID or no COVID, to still stay in touch and celebrate. And 50 years diplomatic relations is certainly something to celebrate. And thank you for including me, because indeed, I go a long way back to the early 80s, as you were saying. It was the first posting for me and for my husband, Richard. And Bangladesh had and still has a very special place in our hearts. I think your first posting is always very special. And I remember we were so excited to go to Bangladesh. And, this was before the time of internet and WhatsApp and blogs and vlogs and all the things you have now. It was truly a different world, and we couldn't wait to go. At the time, not everybody at the ministry was convinced it would be a good destination for a woman. You can't imagine now, with Paula being there and so many other women having served, but there were hesitations, but we went anyway. So for me, Ambassador, thinking back to Dhaka and Bangladesh in the 80s, I thought of 3 things that immediately came to my mind: women, and Bangladeshi women, of course, development cooperation and the thinking about it, and traveling in Bangladesh. So I'll have some personal memories to share. So women, first of all. I remember how struck I was when we arrived in Bangladesh, how many women I met as professionals in Bangladesh, very well educated, very strong, female architects, female business women, female lawyers, all really good professionals. And of course, Bangladesh has been way ahead of the Netherlands. You mentioned your prime ministers, of course, female prime ministers that we have not yet had the pleasure of having in the Netherlands. So first thing that really struck me, strong women, well-educated women, active women in Bangladesh, and they were good fun too. And it taught me one first important lesson. Don't take anything for granted. Find out for yourself what's going on before you come to a judgment, and we can learn from each other. And I think, as Professor Morse was saying just as well, Bangladesh and the Netherlands constantly learn from each other, and you get inspiration from each other. So that was a first very nice memory I had. Wonderful, wonderful women. The second one was development cooperation. Of course, at the time in the 80s in the Netherlands and in the UN and in the world, there was a lot of thinking about development cooperation. It was an important part of our diplomatic training. It was an important part of our foreign policy. So we've done a lot of talking and thinking about development cooperation. And of course, the embassy, as came up in earlier presentations, was actively engaged in water management, in rivers, in agriculture, in polarization, in so many relevant areas. But being in Bangladesh and working in Bangladesh, I was also quickly introduced to the Bangladesh Institute of Development Studies, BIDS. And I remember we had some very interesting seminars there from the start, with also very critical spirits. Is actually development cooperation always such a good thing? What were the negative side effects? Did we think them through well enough? And how far did it maybe even thwart a path to inclusive development? Or did it mainly benefit importers of goods and services? So many critical reflections, critical discussions with young, smart Bangladeshi economists and others. And that taught me another lesson. Critical thinking is always of the utmost importance, whatever you do, wherever you go. So that was the second thing that really came to mind, and the BIDS will always stay with me. And the third thing that came to mind thinking about this session, Riaz, was traveling in Bangladesh, and Antoinette mentioned it as well. It is such a wonderful country. I traveled for work to places like Kamilla, Khulna, Pabna, I remember. But we also quickly made some Bangladeshi friends, and we traveled with them during the weekends. So either by car or we rented a minibus all together. And I was so struck and impressed by the variety of the countryside, the country. We went to the Sylhet Tea Gardens, to Cox's Bazar, the Chittagong Hill Tracts, the Sundarbans, made trips on boats. All of that was possible. And as was said earlier on, the incredible size of the rivers and the incredible force of nature that you are confronted with in Bangladesh. The flora and fauna, the climate. So many good memories of discovering the country with Bangladeshi friends. Also some scary ones. Our car was almost swept away by the sea at Cox's Bazar. And we had rented it, so we were really worried that we would not be able to retrieve it. But we were helped by hundreds of Bangladeshis who all came from all corners and helped us, with bits of wood to drag out the car and make sure it was safe. So lots of good memories of the people, and also lots of talks whilst we were there on Bangladeshi culture, poetry, whilst we were sitting in the car. We would be singing songs. And that brings me to the point you just made, Riaz, the wonderful music of Bangladesh. We left in 1984 with very good and very fond memories. Then we traveled all around the world, had many other postings, also at headquarters. So you can imagine how thrilled I was and excited when I was invited to come for consultations in Dhaka in 2015, as you mentioned, Riaz, and where we met as well, where you were Director General at the time. We had very good consultations, and I was struck by how hugely the city had grown and changed. We lived in Gulshan at the time that was hardly recognizable, but all the traffic and the enormous traffic jams in the city, but also how the economy had taken off, how the economy had grown, how our political ties had developed on regional issues. So we had very good talks, and there was lots to discuss about. But yeah, what struck me most of all again when I came back was the kindness of the Bangladeshi people that was mentioned by some of the speakers before, the sharp wit, the intelligence of the Bangladeshi people, and the creativity. So when we had our dinner after a long day of consultations, and the choir came in the evening, and they were singing Shempiriti Amarontore, what we used to sing in the bus, I couldn't help but join them on the stage. And I think I told you, Rias, that the ambassador made a little film about it, and my children are embarrassed to this day and have said, don't ever show that to anybody. You look absolutely ridiculous between all those elegant Bangladeshi girls with good singing voices and me joining them singing Shempiriti Amarontore. The same love is in my heart. But I love that song and I love the music, and we have wonderful memories. So thank you for including me once more, Ambassador. Thank you to Bangladesh for the inspiration, for learning so many lessons, and for all the good memories. And I'm very glad that the relationship developed as well as it did in all the decades that came after our stay there. And I wish for both of us that it will continue to do so. So thank you for this wonderful occasion, and all the best to you and to our bilateral relations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, madam. I have very little words, but just to tell you that in the spirit of celebrating our friendship, last year we translated the unfinished memoir of the father of the nation in Dutch language, and this has been launched. So just to say that we are really trying to connect with the Dutch people, young men, women from all sectors or areas. Ambassador Chef Eisermans is someone who we have been keenly waiting. Ambassador, if you're there, would you please take the floor? Because of technical glitch, we keep missing you. Ambassador Eisermans? If not, Ambassador Eisermans, would you please take the floor? I think there's some technical glitch, so we keep missing him. 2022 is not simply a year celebration as we are today for the Bangladesh-Netherlands relations. It's also the golden jubilee of Bangladesh's independence. So we see there's a connect and to celebrate. And when we were planning how best to do that, we came out with something maybe a little off track. Sorry, Ambassador Eisermans, would you take the floor now? Please.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, Ambassador Rias, congratulations very much with this day, and thank you very much for inviting me in. I am really having great difficulty in keeping my connection open, so this may also happen in the coming minutes. Just let me use the minute I may have to just share with you that I so much appreciated my time in Bangladesh. I vividly recall the presenting of my credentials to
Looks like we have lost him. So as I was saying, that we were really wondering that how best we can create something or present something to the Dutch friends, connecting both the occasions, as much as the golden jubilee of our relations, but also golden jubilee of Bangladesh's independence. And then we reached out not to any farm, any ad farm or something of that like. We reached out to a 25-year-old young Bangladeshi who we spotted his photographs feature in National Geographic, Guardian, La Parisienne, Boston Globe. He's a 25-year-old young boy called Rafid Yasser. And we negotiated with him for almost a year and came up with something which I think goes rightly in the spirit of all that we have been hearing from each of you. So without any elaboration, I would just say, let's enjoy that.
ডিজনির গল্পগুলো শুনতে কারই না ভালো লাগে। গল্প শুনে নিজেরাই বসত করি গল্পের রাজপুরীতে, আর হয়ে যাই স্বপ্নের রাজকুমারী। আজকের গল্প এমনই এক স্বপ্নের রাজকুমারীকে নিয়ে, যে মনে মনে নিজেকে সিন্ডারেলা, মৎস্যকন্যা, স্নোফাইট কিংবা মুলান ভাবে। রোজ ভোরে ঘুম থেকে উঠে স্কুলে যাওয়া, ভালো ছাত্রীদের মতো ক্লাসে মনোযোগী থাকা, সহপাঠীদের রোজকার খুনসুটির অংশ হওয়া, ছুটির দিন হলে বাড়িতেই পড়তে বসা, বোনের সাথে উঠোনে দড়ি খেলা, মেয়েটিকে দেখলে মনে হতেই পারে সাধারণ কোনো কিশোরীর গল্প শোনাচ্ছি আজ। তবে কি এমন যা তাকে গড়ে তুলেছে সম্পূর্ণ আলাদা? তাসমিনা জন্ম ও বেড়ে ওঠা নওগাঁ জেলার ধামইরহাট গ্রামে। দস্যিদের খাতায় নাম লিখিয়েছে তার রোজকার চঞ্চলতা, স্কুলে ছেলেদের মতো ফুটবল খেলা কিংবা বাবার বাইকে চেপে পুরো গ্রাম দাপিয়ে বেড়ানো। পাড়ার ছেলেদের থেকে কোনো অংশেই কম নয় মেয়েটি। মন চাইলে গাছের ডালে চেপে বসে থাকাও অত্যাশ্চর্য কোনো বিষয় নয়। দস্যিপনায় মেয়েটির কোনো কিছুই তালিকার বাইরে নেই। এক মুঠো দুরন্তপনা নয়, যেন পৌরাণিক রাজকুমারী মুলান। প্রাচীন চীনা কবিতা দ্য ব্যালাড অফ মুলান থেকে বেরিয়ে আসা বাস্তব মুলানেরই গল্প শোনাচ্ছি আজ। যে অপরাজেয়, দুর্বার, মরুসঞ্চার বেদুইন, চেঙ্গিস, ধূর্ত, অদম্য আর বাধাহীন। ঘোড়সওয়ার তাসমিনা। দিনের বেশিরভাগ সময় কাটে যার একটি চতুষ্পদ প্রাণীর সাথে। বনে বাদারে সঙ্গীকে নিয়ে ঘুরে বেড়ানো, যেদিকে দুচোখ যায় ছুটে চলা। নদী পেরিয়ে দূর দূরান্তে ফাঁকা মাঠের সন্ধানে বেরিয়ে পড়া। নদী পাড়ের ভাষাহীন এই বন্ধুত্বের তেষ্টা মেটে ধুধু বিরান ভূমিতে ঝড়ের বেগে ছুটে চলে। সময় পেলেই সঙ্গীকে নিয়ে ঘোড়দৌড় যেন তার রোজকার অবসর। যেখানে তার বয়সী অন্যান্য কিশোরীরা পুতুল নিয়ে খেলতে কিংবা মোবাইল গেমসে আসক্ত দিন পার করছে, সেখানে তাসমিনার দুর্বার গতিপথ বদলে দিয়েছে স্বাভাবিক গ্রামীণ জীবন। আমাদের তাসমিনা, আমাদের বদ্বীপের গুপ্তধন, আমাদের অপরাজেয় মুলান, দ্য আনবিটেন রেসার।
Ambassador, your microphone again, please.
This was the first episode of the 50 stories that we plan to roll out throughout the next 1 year, throughout 2022 and beyond, essentially to bring out the uncanny stories, unseen, unknown ones of Bangladesh that should really speak of Bangladesh in the raw energy that it exists. So I hope you may find it of some interest. Because we thought that let's go out of Dhaka or the big metros and bring out the real people, the real faces of people. If you have not noted, and I see Karin joining from the Foreign Office, I know that you're very busy, but if you have not noted, particularly Madam Rene, the music was actually from an old Dutch fairy tale. So this was a surprise, and that's why I consciously did not bring it up. And we did it by design. So that's part of the thing. As we were planning for a creative celebration of the Golden Jubilee, exactly a year back. I recall that was last February when I wrote to Mr. Tite Nota in Delta Aires and said that we have a plan to roll out a photo video contest connecting the Dutch or Bangladeshi young fellows or any of any age, of any genre, anywhere. And we launched a creative photo and video contest for 2.5 months. It reached up to 800,000 eventually over social media by the close of the submission deadline. And let me now invite the Managing Director of Delta Aires, Ms. Anamike Nijov, to please tell us of our collaboration so far. Anamike.
Well, Ambassador Rias, thank you so much for organizing this special event, and let me congratulate all of you for this very remarkable history between Bangladesh and the Netherlands. And maybe I'm the only one here in the meeting who hasn't had the opportunity yet to visit Bangladesh. So I have to admit that I'm talking about a country which I never visited.
You surely will. Rest assured.
I will. But when I was Director General of Water Management in the Netherlands in 2008, we were preparing our first national plan on water management. And of course, this was largely about what we had to do to deal with climate change ourselves in our Delta area. But we decided to incorporate in the national plan also a very important international chapter with 5 Delta areas around the world where we would definitely move on in the long-lasting and sustainable cooperation. Not because we think that we have to offer all our expertise to other areas in the world, because we were very aware of the importance to learn from each other, and that our cooperation, which was already in place for a long time, was a very fruitful basis for the learning experience we are in. So Bangladesh was an important part of the first plan that I was preparing for Dutch government. And being now the Managing Director of Delta Aires, one of the first persons I met was you, Mr. Ambassador Reyes. And even in person, we had the opportunity in between all the lockdowns to meet and to just embrace the warm feelings that are there between Delta Aires and the research community and also the people in Bangladesh. So I was very honored to be part of the jury, which was able to look through the photos. And there were more than 1,500, and I haven't seen them all because there was a pre-selection which was offered to us as a jury. And I'm not a professional photographer, so I'm not and fortunately we had 2 of them in the jury. So there was also a professional judgment of the quality of the photos. But I was listening to you talking, all the speakers before, Antoinette and Renee and Henk and all the others. And I think this was exactly how I was looking at the photos. It's about water, life, and culture. It is about the people and the kindness of the people. And actually, when I am looking and evaluating pictures, I am always very much influenced by the colors of the pictures and the way that colors really comes across specific elements of the culture. And I think you know that in the Netherlands we are famous, our painters are famous because of the extreme beautiful skies and landscapes. But what struck me from the pictures from Bangladesh were the beauty of the colors of the people and their clothing, and how this really radiates from everything I saw. So it were the colors, but it was also that even if it's a snapshot, you see the movement, you see the joy, you see the expression of people really living with the water, enjoying the surroundings, and how water and culture and life comes together. So it was a great opportunity to feed my longing to visit this country and to also contribute to the future cooperation together. And well, I'm anxious to present to you the outcome of this photo contest, which is also the basis for a beautiful book that will be, I hope, on many tables, which tells in beautiful pictures the water stories of our countries. Thank you so much for inviting me, and let's give a look at the pictures.
Okay, Aramika, thank you very much for your words. And with that, could we, from the embassy and the Deltas, could we request to please roll out the awarded submissions, please? At this hour, I must place on record our appreciation to two colleagues in Delta Aires, Mr. Tite Nota, Birgit, and also my colleague Habib in the embassy, and particularly to two jury members from Bangladesh, very eminent photographers on their own standing. Henki, you may recall that Din Mohammad Shibli actually brought out in 2015 that unique story on the climate ground zero, the photographic tale documenting 10 years of work of climate change in Bangladesh on the riverbanks, in the coast. With that, let me turn to our very dear friend Karin Moslenscher, who serves as the Director for Asia and Oceania Department in the Dutch Foreign Ministry in The Hague. She is not only my reporting boss, but also a very dear friend, very distinguished friend, and if I may only turn to you, Karin, I know that I'm dragging you from a very important engagement for you in the ministry, an envoys conclave. How would you look at the future? I mean, we have heard so much about the past, about the present, how much of ground that we have covered. But when you look at the future of the relations, and today is the first day in the next 50 years that we are in, how would you look at, particularly and when we are in the middle of a bit of uncertainty in a fast-changing world? Karin.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador, dear Riaz, and dear friends and colleagues. I'm very pleased to speak at the joyous occasion where we celebrate 50 years of friendship between Bangladesh and the Netherlands. And first of all, I have to apologize that I had prior engagement and to my deep regret was not able to listen to all the other contributions by the great lineup of so many wonderful speakers, including our former Secretary General, Renee Jones. And I'm very sad to have missed her intervention and all the other interventions, but happy to be here. And I think the lineup that you got, Riaz, shows the breadth and the scope of our bilateral relations, and also how many friends you have in the Netherlands. Maybe before addressing the question that you posed on the future engagement between the Netherlands and Bangladesh, allow me to briefly go back to the past 50 years. I want to say that we're very happy that the Netherlands was among the first group of countries to establish diplomatic ties with Bangladesh 50 years ago. And since the early days, we have worked very closely together in many areas, such as water. We just listened to the managing director of Deltaris, but also food security, agriculture, textiles, and issues such as women's rights. And over the years, we've had numerous contacts and exchanges and high-level visits. Just in the last year, even though the COVID situation was actually hampering a lot of international travel, we saw an incoming visit by your foreign minister to the Netherlands. There were also contacts between your Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and Her Royal Highness Queen Maxima. And we still managed to have many online contacts with Bangladesh as well. We've been long-standing development partners. But indeed, things change. And first of all, Bangladesh has changed. And in a remarkable and an amazing and admiring way. The social indicators of Bangladesh in the area of education, of health, gender equality have improved spectacularly. And we deeply admire the policies that have achieved this. I was told that Bangladesh now has the highest female labor force participation in South Asia and the lowest gender pay gap amongst middle income countries, which is also very laudable. And your ability to cope with the many challenges that are posed to you by your geography, like the Netherlands, Bangladesh as a delta country is very, very vulnerable for instance, for flooding. But the way you've managed to deal with these challenges has improved significantly. Flooding still continues to remain a major risk and an area for cooperation between our countries. But it's no longer fortunately causing the devastation that it did in the past. So Bangladesh has changed in a significant way. But secondly, also our relationship has changed. We used to have a traditional development cooperation relationship, but now it's really shifting more and more towards trade and investment and innovative cooperation in high-tech sectors. Our development budget.
Karin,
I
sorry.
think, I don't know. Did you hear
Please,
me?
please, please. Yes, please.
I was just saying that Bangladesh has changed a lot over the years, but also our bilateral relationship has changed. And from the traditional development cooperation, we've moved on towards a modern relationship based on trade, investment, innovative sectors. And our economic ties are increasing. Bangladesh is now an important exporter to the Netherlands, and the Netherlands has also become an important investor in Bangladesh. Bangladesh has, for us, been a role model in the way we've worked together also in reforming the textile sector. For us, of course, it was the tragic events of the Rana Plaza collapse was something that was noted well in the Netherlands, but also was taken up in a positive way by working together closely with Bangladesh, with international and Dutch textile brands, to get better labor standards and sustainability in the sector. And with this example, I think we really have been working to up the ante for the standard setting in other industries and in other countries as well. So our relationship has changed, Bangladesh has changed, but the world has changed as well. And in this changing world, with the many global challenges that we are facing at the moment, we need to work together as countries that share many interests and share many values as well. Democracy, on human rights, on a rules-based international order. We have to work together on effective multilateralism, promotion of human rights, women's rights, but also on other challenges posed by climate change. Bangladesh and the Netherlands work already closely together in the area of climate adaptation, and your Prime Minister has been involved in all the events that have been taking place in the Netherlands, and also Bangladesh has its own climate adaptation center. So these are areas where cooperation is crucial for both our countries. We increasingly also work together in the area of peace and security, humanitarian assistance. We both provide, for example, humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan, and our two ministers discussed that in length when your minister visited the Netherlands. Bangladesh is also an important provider of shelter to hundreds of thousands Rohingya refugees that have fled Myanmar. And we work together on accountability in Myanmar. So there's a whole scope of areas where we're working together, and these are just some of the examples on our widening and maturing relationship. I'm very happy that we can work together and that we can stand shoulder to shoulder in this world that is more and more complicated to deal with. And I am personally convinced that Bangladesh and the Netherlands will continue to widen and deepen our friendship and cooperation in the years to come. And it's also thanks to your efforts, dear Riaz, because you are, I don't want to say anything about all my other ambassadors in my region, but you are such an active ambassador, by far in the forefront of the ambassadors, pushing for strengthening the bilateral relation. And I think you really see the fruit of your work also in this session today. I really look forward to the next episode in our relationship. And I would like to congratulate you once again on 50 years of friendship. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Karin. You said so much. I'd not, in the interest of time, I'd not go and further elaborate on that. Thank you very much for joining, particularly when you're so much pressed on your engagements that I know of. While you're here, we are also joined by, while you're holding the fort in the Hague, Fayaz Mushid Qazi joins us as the Director General for Europe and EU Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Dhaka, who holds the fort at that end, in Dhaka end. Fayaz, how would you look at the burgeoning collaborations? I'm sure that you have so much to say, particularly after listening to Karin. Please.
Thank you, Ambassador. I hope you can hear me. I mean, after having hearing this, listening to this very distinguished group of speakers, my head is actually cramming with things to say. I mean, a lot of ideas that cropped up, but I shouldn't be taxing your patience. And it's always a challenge to speak after Ambassador Riaz Hamidullah, I mean, who again proved himself to be a truly people's ambassador. I mean, what I admire about him, there are a lot of things to admire about him, but his ability to project the unvarnished truths about Bangladesh and its society, that's something that keeps amazing me all the time. And my hats off to you. And I think that authenticity that you carry on behalf of our government, of our people, has resonated with your audience today. And that's why we have such a excellent lineup of speakers here. So congratulations to everyone at this juncture. I mean, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of bilateral relations. And as my previous speaker has very rightly said, that we are increasingly looking at kind of having a reset in our bilateral ties. We see that it is moving more in the direction of not just trade and investment cooperation, but also strategic issues of shared interest. We know that maritime security, particularly in the Indo-Pacific context, has become quite a staple in international conversations. And there as well, both the Netherlands and Bangladesh do have a lot of common areas of interest to talk about. When I talk about the Netherlands, I mean, we always look at the Dutch royal family, and it's very interesting that His Majesty the King, he is known to be a water management expert, and Her Majesty the Queen, she is the UN Special Envoy on Financial Inclusion. I don't think that for both of them, there could be a better example to project as a partner in these two domains. And that's why I think they have always gelled or synced very well with our Prime Minister, who also personally champions both these issues. And I mean, their conversations are always very lively around these emerging new areas. So we look forward to maintaining that, sustaining the traditional areas of cooperation in water and agriculture, which kind of gives a symbiotic bond to our relations. I don't think we could actually dare to think up to the year 2100 if the Netherlands were not there on our side. The fact that our Prime Minister herself has presented to the nation a Delta Plan 2100 has dared us to look into the next 70 years is largely again thanks to this very robust partnership that we had with the Netherlands in the water sector in the Delta management area. So I have two proposals. One is we are partnering with the Netherlands on a coalition called the International Delta Coalition. And perhaps some of you know that we had made a pitch to host the headquarters of that entity in Bangladesh, and our Ministry of Water Resources has been allocated a piece of land for that purpose as well. We would expect the Netherlands support and count on that, and hope that this can actually become a hallmark of our excellent cooperation. And the second is, while we were looking at many of the videos, vlogs, podcasts, and photographs, I saw a lot of images from a particularly vulnerable part of the country. I think some of the speakers talked about the Khulna region and surrounding those that region, Shatkhira and Bagirhat, some of the very climatically vulnerable parts of the country where we still do have some very pronounced challenges. My suggestion would be that let us take that particular area or that particular region again as a test case of our combined development efforts. There was a time when we were growing up and we used to hear a lot about famine-like situation in the northern part of the country. That has almost become a history now. So the next round of challenge before the government is actually the part of the country which is most climatically vulnerable. So again, a suggestion to our Dutch friends that the work that we are already doing in that area, let's see how we can enhance that and again make it a showcase for our meaningful, demonstrable cooperation. I think others have spoken about our cooperation in the multilateral or international sector, peacekeeping, international justice, the cause of the Rohingya. These will continue to dominate our shared agenda. One last word that I would like to leave with you. This society, the Bangladesh society, is very much changing and transforming all the time. And we are witnessing certain new opportunities and new challenges. With the expansion of the educated middle class, of course, our value systems, our requirements, these are also kind of going through a metamorphosis. When we were younger, I think Antoinette was absolutely right. We didn't have such awareness about certain vulnerable groups like people with disabilities or transgender people. But you would see that they're becoming more and more mainstream in the society. And this is a continuous journey. And we would appreciate your understanding about our efforts to move in the right direction. Bangladesh has often been subject to what I like to call a kind of parachute journalism. The kind of reporting that occurs about Bangladesh in the international media does not necessarily always reflect the dynamism, the continued progression that this society and this country continues to achieve. So again, it's excellent to enlist all of you as our friends in making that projection, and please do stay with us in that effort, and please continue to hold our hands. So we definitely look forward to the next 50 years. The concluding word, and it would be remiss on my part if I did not recognize the role that's being played by Klingbeil Institute. Sorry for my pronunciation. I didn't have an opportunity to get trained there myself, but many of my diplomatic colleagues, the younger ones especially, have this privilege, and they often say that in the 1.5 months they spend there, they actually get to learn much, much more than they do when they spend 6 to 9 months in our own training academy. So that actually shows how we value and cherish this program. So thank you very much for offering our Foreign Office this opportunity, and we hope that this capacity building support would also continue. Again, I took more time than I was supposed to, but as I said, it's difficult to stop when talking about the Netherlands and Bangladesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fayaz. But also to recognize Klingbeil, but I must on that score also recognize a couple of other Dutch organizations like RVO, NAFIC, PUM, PUM, CBI, because very quietly but significantly they have been lending to the sort of population of populating the canvas that up until now we have between Bangladesh and Netherlands. On that score, as we are to conclude, let me invite and turn to our dear friend Paula Schindler, the Charge d'Affaires of the Dutch Embassy in Dhaka. Paula, you heard so much. Coming at the end has a challenge as well.
Yes.
Could
Thank
we hear
you. Thank you, Ambassador Riaz. And indeed, it is an honor for me to speak at the end of this circle of impressive speakers and special stories. And again, these were stories of so many important pillars of our 50 years rich history of diplomatic relations, cooperation, and friendship. And again, all these stories today and before, and again, my compliments to all the beautiful images and projects you have showed also today. But these stories, again, they show me that actually the energy and the dedication of the people are such important ingredients. Ingredients that feed the ideas, spices up the journey, and harvest the results we achieve together. And in the final words of perhaps today's session, I think I'd like to celebrate the people, because in those 50 years that we've seen and heard, so many different people have given color to that friendship and achieving more together. And as you have showed so well, we have achieved a lot, both in the Netherlands and in Bangladesh, as well as internationally in multilateral fora. And for example, today on our social media, we share 50 reasons to celebrate our relations. Well, it was very easy. I could have easily, we could have written down 200. So we're working towards the 200 years. But now in those 50 reasons, there are, as mentioned today, so many important subjects that have been already highlighted. And then there's always big words and our cooperation in water management, private sector development, increasing trade relations, solutions for sustainable agriculture, climate adaptation, equal opportunities for women and girls, so many more. But behind every subject, behind every achievement, there's always so many real people behind this who make this happen. And again, there are too many to mention here, but these are people from both our ministries of foreign affairs, both of the people of our embassies, the people of our amazing universities on both sides, NGOs, so many companies, travelers who are wandering in both countries and find opportunities, Bangladesh, Dutch families. The real people, they make the difference and really cultivate our relations. Again, some examples that have already been mentioned or some not. The people who actually imported and cultivated the Dutch potato, who actually I found here in Bangladesh is so well known, and everybody enjoys the Dutch potatoes. But also indeed early on, these wonderful farmers who work day and night to actually get their dream realized, to have tulips here in Bangladesh. Also entrepreneurs, pioneer entrepreneurs setting up companies in the Netherlands, or have now their both a company both in the Netherlands and Bangladesh. Experts sharing knowledge, expertise, people exporting the amazing mangoes from Bangladesh. All those people, they make the difference and they feed our wonderful relations. So again, at the end of this very special session, and again, my dear Ambassador Rias, compliments to you and your whole team to make this happen. But I would like to thank all those people who really made that difference in 50 years relations for their energy and dedication to make those things happen. And I do really encourage all the people in this room and online, and I've seen many people responding, the experienced people, the many people who have the expertise, but also the new and young generation who study in both Bangladesh and the Netherlands, to take really the new steps to work for the next 50 years of our thriving relations between our two countries. And I'm very proud that I can still be part of that journey today and tomorrow. And again, thank you all. And well, if I may say so, thank you for a wonderful event. I would say cheers to the next 50 years. And I wish you all a very pleasant remainder of your day and or evening. Onek Donobat.
Thank you, Paula. In one of my interactions with a group of students from Leiden University, I guess it was a Dutch girl who stood up and said that, Ambassador, how do you define your relationship with Netherlands? I was almost to scratch my head, but then my impromptu answer was that a relationship is not simply between two countries at the political level, but a relationship is best defined not in terms of material wealth, but rather in terms of the values that the two peoples share. I think all that Paula said, Karin said, and also preceding them others is best manifest by what that young girl from Leiden asked me, and perhaps I made it my way by responding somehow. So with so much of reflections of the past, of the present, and indeed looking into the future, let's draw this virtual celebration to a close. Clearly, our growing menu of engagements and collaborations merit attention for wide-ranging actors, not simply from the government, ministries, departments, but also business and industry, academia, research, community, think tanks, and no less media, to translate so much of potential to reality. We have a lot of symbols, tulip, mango, and many more to join. So from The Hague, let me thank each of our distinguished guests. Some of them have signed on. Sorry we missed Ambassador Chef Eisermans for being with us. Let me particularly mention a few like Din Mohammed Shibli, Rafi Dias's team, Adil and Raina, the young Dutch girl who made the vlog, Tita Nota and Team Deltares, Dr. Shanur and the podcast team, Gupi Bagha team, particularly Sam for your collaboration and cooperation. No less my own colleagues in the mission, Norid, Habib, and the new entrant, Fahad. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.